Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am doing a look using the Charlotte Tilbury Bella Sofia palette. Now this is an older palette. I hate to say older because it's not like super old or anything, but there's just so many new releases that I tend to forget and not utilize enough some of my older favorite Charlotte Tilbury products. So I thought I would just do a full look using this palette, and this whole look was inspired by this palette, so this is definitely more sultry, a little bit more on the dramatic side. I just did a video talking about some of my favorite Charlotte Tilbury products, so I thought I would use them in this video as well, so you can see a full Bella Sofia inspired look. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let's just get straight into this look. I feel like this palette just has not gotten enough love on my channel, and I am really trying to get use of some of my older palettes, and I did mention in my Best of Charlotte Tilbury. So I thought I was going to just use it today. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury Bella Sofia palette. This was previously called the Dolce Vita palette, but they renamed it to the Bella Sofia. So I'm going to take this #1 shade, which is the prime shade right here, the lightest in the bunch. I love this shade. It's like the perfect pearl tone. So it has a little bit of shimmer, but again, it's a very sophisticated shimmer. You're not going to get any of those shimmer particles like those more thick particles. You're going to see no glitter. It's just a beautiful sheen, and this color is so brightening on the eyes. So I'm just going to take that on a blender brush. This is the Sonia G Blender Pro, and I'm going to use that to prime the eye. So I'm placing this all over the lid, and I'm being kind of haphazard, like I'm not being too precise or anything. And I'm just going to, again, apply this all over the eye. And I don't know if you can see just what a beautiful sheen it just gives to the eye. It is not overwhelming. It's not too pigmented of a color, so you don't need to be really careful when you're applying this shade. You can just apply this so easily, and this is a palette I would recommend to beginners because, again, it isn't too pigmented off the bat, so it's just such an easy and beautiful palette to work with. It's going to be flattering on absolutely everyone. So again, I am just applying this completely all over the lid, and then because I want my eyes to be a little more awake and opened, I'm just blending this through the crease too, almost as if I was leaving this as a one and done shadow. And for the next step, I'm going to take this enhanced shade, so it's that kind of reddish tone, and there is a swatch of it here, so it is just a beautiful, again, these all have shimmers to them. There are no mattes in this palette, so if you wanted to, you could go ahead and add a bronzer as a transition shade. I don't feel like I personally need one. I can use this shade as kind of my transition shade, so to speak. And I feel like I get enough depth and dimension in this palette completely without having to use outside palettes or a matte shade. So this one, again, it has a little bit of a sheen, but when you lay it on the eyes as that transition color, and I'm just going to go ahead and use that Blender Pro brush again, tap off the excess on the back of my hand. So when you go in on the eyes, you're not going to see a shimmer or anything on the eyes. It's just going to beautifully enhance kind of what it says it's going to do. It's going to enhance this look, and it's not going to be overwhelming. And again, because these aren't too pigmented off the bat, it's really buildable, and it applies beautifully in the crease without it being overwhelming at all. So I love this shade so much, and it just blends so seamlessly when you apply it over top of that prime shade. It almost requires no effort. So again, this would be great for beginners. So you can see it's a very subtle color payoff when I'm applying it onto the eyes. It's definitely not too dramatic. Even though I feel like when you look at this palette, you might be like, oh wow, that's a very dramatic palette, but it's not because it's quite buildable. Next, I'm going to take a Wayne Goss 07 brush. So it's basically just a smudger brush, and I like to use this brush to apply colors to the lash line. And I'm again going to go in with that enhanced shade just because I really want this tone close to the lash line. This, again, it has a bit of red to it, so when you pair it against any eye color, whether that's blue, green, or brown, it's going to contrast with your eye color and really make it stand out and look really beautiful. So I'm going to press this all the way across the upper lash line. Again, not being super precise because you don't really need to at this stage. And I'm just going to connect it upwards in that outer corner, kind of wing it up to meet that enhanced shade that we applied in the crease ever so slightly. So I'm elongating the eye just a tad bit. I'm not creating like a full-on winged eyeliner by any means though. And then from here, I am going to go in with the smoke shade. So that's that deepest bronze. And again, here are the swatches. So that is this shade right here, just super complimentary to this full-on look. And for that, I'm going to take that same Wayne Goss brush, but with this shade, I'm going to be more precise and just press it really close on the upper lash line just to add a bit of depth there and a bit more smokiness, but again, it's not going to be too much. All right, and I actually really love using this as a base underneath this pop shade right here because it almost acts as a primer and makes this shade just go on more evenly and smoothly over top. So I just like to apply a shadow underneath this pop shade. I think it just helps adhere this shadow because this is a shadow that you're going to want to use with fingers. It reminds me a lot of the Victoria Beckham lid lusters in that a brush doesn't apply them in the best way. It almost applies it too thick where you can't blend it out as nice. So your fingers are really the best bet with this. You can also apply it wet as well. And it just adds the most beautiful, again, very similar to the lid lusters. There are shimmer particles to it, but it's not a chunky glitter. It's not gonna look overwhelming on the eyes. This is a very elegant and sophisticated sheen, which are my favorite type of shimmers. Again, there is a bit of dryness when you pick it up with your finger because again, there are shimmer particles in it that are a bit thicker and less consistent. They're a bit more sporadic than some other shimmers, like in comparison to this one here. The shimmer particles are very refined, but it looks beautiful when you apply it on the lids. You get that really beautiful kind of gilded look that it almost looks like your eye is wet. You just get that kind of glossy lid look. Again, this isn't a palette that I would use for the daytime. I mean, I could use these 3 shades for the daytime, and then this just makes a beautiful pop of color if you're going out in the evening because again, it does have more shimmer particles to it than I would normally wear in the daytime. And you can just really apply it on the eyes beautifully when you use your fingertips. So you get that beautiful sparkle on the eyes, but again, it's not chunky or anything too intense. And then I'm just going to run over the edges with that Sonia G brush just to make sure there are no harsh lines, because again, sometimes when you apply with your fingers, it might not be as smooth in application, so you just want to blend over everything. So again, if I were to compare this eyeshadow palette to other eyeshadows on the market, the shimmers in here are very consistent and on brand with Charlotte Tilbury's other formulas. A little bit drier and not as pigmented than in some of her larger palettes. They're definitely more on that buildable side, but I don't mind, especially for a palette like this that looks a little bit more dramatic. I like that it's more buildable. And then this shade right here differs from anything else. These are her celestial shades in the palette, so they add more pizzazz, a little bit more drama. They're very comparable to like the Chantecaille Luminescent eye shades, very comparable to the Victoria Beckham lid lusters because again, you get that beautiful sparkle, but it's very elegant and sophisticated. It's not too overwhelming, but there's definitely going to be a bit of that shimmer that you can see on the eyes. So it's not as continuous and refined as some other sheen kind of shimmer formulas. It's just a bit of a thicker particle. But again, it's not a chunky glitter because I don't like chunky glitters. And then for the lower lash line, I'm just going to take the enhanced shade, so that number 2 kind of burgundy shade, and I'm going to run that across the lower lash line. For mascara, I'm going to go in with my Dior 3D Lash Maximizer and then top it off with the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Push-Up Lashes, and I'll be back to work on the face. For concealer, one of my favorites from Charlotte Tilbury is the Magic Corrector, and now it doesn't have the name on it, so I think that's what it's called. I have mine in the shade medium, and this works really great as just like a really natural concealer. So I'm just going to take my fingertips because I think it works best when you warm it up. So it definitely applies better if it's warm. So you'll kind of feel it become creamier when you warm it up on your fingertips. And I'm just going to, there's like a teensy mirror in here, so this isn't ideal. But I'm just going to apply that under my eyes in the darkest area, so where I have a little blue here, and just on this outside corner here. This is really nice because once you blend it into the skin, it becomes very seamless and just melts right in. And then I just go over everything with the Beauty Blender just to make sure it's really blended into the skin. And this is really nice. Again, for this look, I like the face to remain very natural looking because the eyes are quite dramatic. And with this eyeshadow, there is a little bit of that shimmer sparkle kind of coming through it. So because the eyes are a bit more dramatic and sultry, I really like for the skin to look very natural and not flawless. I almost like my skin to show through. I just think that the contrast looks really beautiful when you have kind of one focal point of intensity and then you leave the rest of like the skin and the eyes looking very natural and clean. And again, because I want the skin to look really nice and natural, I'm going to pull for the Chantecaille Future Skin oil-free gel foundation, and I wear mine in the shade Cream. So it comes in this little jar, and it is very lovely on the skin. It feels like it just melts right into the skin, so you feel that gel consistency, and it feels really cooling on the skin. So this is great in the summer when you don't want a lot of product on the skin. And again, when I want my own skin to show through, this is a product I reach for because you can see your like skin texture showing through, but it does blur the appearance, like it does blur texture and pigmentation, obviously, but it just gives this sheer wash of color that really lets your own skin show through. So it's a very much your skin but better type of look. And it looks, this is a really great foundation if you're going to be seeing people in person, like if you have a holiday party, or if you're going out for dinner with friends and you are meeting someone on that one-to-one, like right across from each other, and you're going to be really close to people in person. Because this is so seamless on the skin and you can't see product sitting on top of the skin, this is a great product to pull for when you're going to be, again, very close and personal with other people, because you don't want to see product sitting on top of your skin in those situations. And I just think that, again, pairs really beautifully with this more intense eye look. I always just start, and I do clean my hands beforehand. I start with like that amount. And again, I always apply product to the palm of my hand, not to the back of my hand, because the back of your hand has pores. So it will just absorb that product into the back of your hand, and you'll probably have to go in with more product. So I just like working that way. And then for me, I like this best when it's applied with a Beauty Blender sponge. That's typically how I prefer all my foundations. But I just think it melts into the skin, again, very seamlessly when you apply it with a Beauty Blender sponge. And you get like no brush strokes or anything. And I just like how it looks. So that's just my preferred method, but I hear a lot of people like this with a brush as well. Yeah, it's just so beautiful on the skin. So lightweight. It doesn't feel heavy at all. You'll never get any heaviness or any cakiness. It doesn't settle into any fine lines or anything like that. It's really just your skin but better, your skin but perfected. Because when I look at areas of concern, and for me, okay, I have a hair right there. For me, that is like my pore area here where I have a bit more texture, where just pores tend to stand out. This does a great job of just blurring them out, but without having product looking like it's sitting on top of your skin. For the face, taking my favorite Charlotte Tilbury bronzer of all time. This is the Nudegasm face palette. I'm going to take this deepest shade right here just because, as you can see, mine broke because I dropped it on the ground because I am the clumsiest person ever. But this is a big Gillette product, so you need to go in with a denser brush. So this is a Rephr 22. And I just love this shade. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. It's definitely a deeper bronzer. So again, you can just take that excess off on the back of your hand. But it is a deeper shade, but because it's a big Gillette, it applies in a very sheer layer. So it's a very buildable product, and it doesn't look too deep on the skin. And my favorite part is just how it melds into the skin. It literally melts and looks like a cream product sitting on top of your skin. It is wonderful and one of the loveliest formulas on the market. I just love it. This product works really well with that Chantecaille foundation, again, because it looks so natural and just seamless on the skin. Never sits on top of the skin. It just blends right in. It really enhances your skin and just looks lovely. And I'm also just going to finish off the eyes while I'm here. So again, I'm going to dip into that bronzer just to kind of tie the whole look together. And I'm just going to apply it to the lower lash line, just in case any of that concealer covered up the lower lash line, and then connecting it to that top lash line. I just like to add a little bit of bronzer to the eye look, again, because it makes it a little more monochromatic. It just ties the eyes and the face together, just in a very subtle way. And then I'm going to dip back into that prime shade here, and I'm going to add this not to the very inside corner, but to the inner lid, kind of like the inner crease here. I just like to add a bit of brightness there, and just on the very inner corner of the lid. I do not add this to the tear duct because I don't like how it looks. So I just like to add that brightness just on the very inside corner of the lid and into the inner crease. I think that looks lovely. And then for the highlighter, once again, dipping into the Nudegasm palette. I think this is Charlotte Tilbury's best highlighter formula because, again, it really just enhances the skin, never sits on top of the skin. It almost appears as if you've applied a liquid highlighter. That's how subtle and just how beautiful it looks. And again, it never sits on top of the skin. It just melts. It's also not too intense. Like, it's not a very intense highlighter, so it is buildable, but it's not going to give you like a beaming highlight. So I really like that because, again, it's very subtle. And then for cheeks, because the eyes are quite intense, I'm going with my favorite color is the Pillow Talk Intense. So because it's the intense shade, and you can tell this is quite a bit darker than what I would normally use as a blush, but it is a beautiful nude shade when you combine these two shades together. I just need to go in with a lighter hand. So I basically just go in with one dip on the outer perimeters here, and then one dip on that inner little circle there, and then I just tap off the excess, and that's all I need to apply to my cheeks. And again, this is like a Your Cheeks But Better color. And I really like this color in particular because I feel like it doesn't have as much of a sheen as some of her other products or some of her other blushes in this formula. So it really just enhances your cheeks, and there's nothing shimmery or sparkly. So it looks really beautiful. And again, it's that perfect nude color that will look great with any look and any sort of lip color that you choose to pair it with. Now I could use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush powder that I'm using to basically do my makeup in, but I just can't because I love this Cle De Peau one so much. So I'm going to go in with the Cle De Peau one. It is just the most perfecting and refining powder on the market, and it blurs everything. It never looks heavy. It does not look powdery at all. I feel like it would be a great touch-up powder as well. So I'm just going on with this to set my makeup and kind of finish everything off. So if I'm not going in with a finishing powder, I like to apply my powder as the last step because it almost kind of buffs everything in together. So you're not going to have any of those harsh lines from the application of your bronzer, blush, highlight. This really makes everything really seamless and just blends in everything very evenly. So again, there's no harsh lines, and then it also really perfects the areas like my pores or if I have any texture or anything like that. And then to finalize, moving on to lips, this is my holy grail Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Top Lip Liner. So I'm just going to line and fill in my lips with this. On an everyday basis, I would probably just leave the lips here and then apply a lip balm. But because this is for a more special occasion, I'm going to go in with a lipstick. And I can't decide between Dance Floor Princess or JK Magic. I think I'm going to use JK Magic. This formula is beautiful. I typically don't love lipsticks because I just think they look a little too heavy, and for me, I just like something really glossy and natural. But this formula is beautiful. It's like a satin finish, but it's really comfortable. And again, I like to blend everything together so there's no harsh lines, and my lips look a little more natural. And I am just going to top it with a little bit of gloss because I just need gloss. I'm just going to use the Dior Lip Maximizer because it is sitting right here. All right, so this is the final look using the Charlotte Tilbury Bella Sofia palette. I love that palette. I think it is beautiful, again, for a more special occasion. I'm really trying to use up some more products, so I thought I would just show you that because I have it in my collection. You might as well see a look using some of my favorite Charlotte Tilbury products. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know some of your favorite Charlotte Tilbury products down below. And do you have the Bella Sofia palette? Again, I know it's a bit of an older one, but it's so beautiful, and it's one of my favorites in my collection. But again, because it's older, I just don't utilize it enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I will see you in my next video.